What would you say was the biggest fear or insecurity that you overcame or needed to overcome since after those 2 years until now? Was it learning how to do public speaking? Was it learning how to accept yourself and the way you looked? Was it connecting with your boys in a certain way or being perceived as someone who got injured? What was the fear or insecurity you had to overcome?
Man, I would say it's layered. So I want to touch on it. It was extremely difficult when I first started going out with my arm. It was extremely difficult, because...
Were you single at the time, or did you have a girl at the time, or...
me and my wife, we've been on and off, She's had more patience with me.
Yeah. But at the time you were with her, or on and off with her?
Yeah, on and off. And but she was always there, man. It was my immaturity.
Sure.
But my arm, it's just naturally, smaller. And so when I first started going out, sleeve, and I would go out and either people would shy away, which would hurt, in the early years, or a person would just look, right? Like, man, what is that? And very few people would ask, right? When I started going out with my sleeve, very few people would say, just in terms of if I'm out in an area, like if I'm at Habitat for Humanity, I'm there with the football team. So it's all good. Like people are going to come over, boom. But if I'm out like with solo, walking through the mall, very few people would just come up and be like, hey man, what happened? They would just look, right, and just stare. And that was extremely difficult for me for a long time, right? Just thinking about, okay, man, like what are they thinking, right? Or it really hurt when people would just look and they would think I'm looking and they would shy away. Like that hurt, early on. But I would say the biggest thing that I've had to overcome, like public speaking, I was fearful of that. But the biggest thing, man, was running from poverty. What I considered to be poverty, man, because I thought football was going to help my family. And so when I started speaking, I started doing extremely well, I have been for a while with speaking, to where I would just go and I was just trying to accept gigs.
Make as much as you could.
I was just running, right? Just trying to speak because I grew up a certain way and I was like, man, I don't want
you don't want to go back there.
Yeah, to have to grow up the way I grew up, my kids, or go back to that environment. And I loved every element of it, right? I love the encounters with the people. I love the impact that it gives you. I was just running from my past. And I'll never forget, I was in a small group and a gentleman was walking around in a circle and he was like, what's something that, you guys feel like in your childhood you're still dealing with or you're running from? And, everybody would raise their hand and say something. And he got to me and I was like, poverty. And he was like, are you in poverty? I was like, no. He was like, well, stop running. Right? and its simplicity was yet profound, but it was simple, right? And I thought about it when I got to my room, and I'll never forget, Louis, I got a gig, and it was one of the biggest gigs I had gotten to date, and they were about to pay me more money
than I'd ever gotten. How old are you?
I was 36 now. I was probably 30.
Okay, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
They're about to pay your 30. Biggest check ever.
Yeah, biggest check ever. And I was stoked. And the challenge was it fell on my wife's birthday, right? And so I'm like, man. And so, you start working it out in your mind. Yeah. Oh, man, my wife's birthday. I start talking.
Negotiate with her.
I'm negotiating.
Right, your birthday week before or week after.
Right, I'm working it out. I'm like, yeah. So when I bring it to her, I already done worked it out. Hey, babe, this gig, like I can send you and grandma to the spa. I can come back right after that. We can work. I got it all figured out. I got it all figured out. And she could see how excited I was. So she was like, oh, yeah, go, sure, go. And my wife been at it since 5th grade. So she knows me. She go. So I go, it works out, do the gig. I send them to the spa, fly back the same day, pick her up. Everything goes great on the birthday. 2 days later, I think it was something about, might have been some socks or something at the house, something small. Wife blew up, right? She showed a side to me that I hadn't even seen yet, right? And I knew exactly what it was. Like, it clicked immediately. I was like, that was the gig. I was like, she's blowing up, not because she's blowing up about the gig. She felt as if I value the opportunity, the engagement, and the money over her and her birthday. That was the damage, right? Over the kids, over the family, over that moment, right? And so what I had to do was realize that, man, you got renewable and you got non-renewable moments in life, right? Renewable, you can always make some more money, right? Non-renewable, my wife will never get another 30th birthday. My son will never have another 10th birthday. My daughter never have another 11th birthday, right? And so my biggest thing that I had to overcome and destroy and grow through was that spirit and that thought process of running from poverty. Something I encountered as a kid. And once I got to a solid space as an adult, you know, every next level of our lives demand a new version of us, right? Taking that toolkit, reconstructing it, growing to another level. So I didn't do damage by having the right intentions while doing damage. The right intention. I want my family to have a better way of life, but I'm doing damage with the right intention because I'm not growing beyond that level and that thought process. Yeah.
So how do you negotiate? What if you got a $100,000 gig on her birthday?
Yeah.
Are you just to say, nah, sorry, Nike, nah, I can't come and speak
She might
the
be
same
like,
day.
nah, we good, go, right? We good. Yeah, but man, just trying to communicate, you know, that's a skill that I don't think as men we always get or cultivate, you know, so, but yeah, it worked out.
Why do you think so many people hold on to their tragedies or traumas so intently in their present from something that happened 2, 5, 10, 20 years ago? Why do you think people hold on to it so long?
I think just the nature of the impact when it happens, right? And how it stuns their life, right? Like I had one of my friends who is a high-level coach, Division I coach, that ended up getting fired. And great coach, man, just had a bad couple of years. And hit me up and was like, hey, Ink, man, I need you to help me with something. He said, why am I resisting opportunities to get another head gig? It's like, I love ball. Like, why am I resisting an opportunity? Why am I fearful? And I was like, I'm not saying this is for certain, but I think for one, maybe the embarrassment of being fired and how that made you feel, how that impacted your children, how that impacted your family. Because I think painful experiences, they always come with a lot of different emotions, right? Like me talking about going out and it was hard for me with my arm when people would look at me, right? That was a bit embarrassing at first, right? And so sometimes we hold on to these different emotions that attach to the experiences that we have. So I think you got the experience and then you got the collateral damage of the experience. How it affects our mindset, how it affects the way we see people, how it affects our emotions. And I think sometimes it's challenging to separate the two and deconstruct the two. And so therefore we hold on to the feelings that the trauma may have given us, right? The feelings that the adversity and the opposition may have given us. And so I think the moment that we can grow through it and figure out a way to use it, I think the quicker we get through it. Because I think it's a powerful thing, Louis, and I think you probably know this to be true. When we use what happens to us, and it creates a light bulb moment for another person, that's a great feeling. It's like when you get something for yourself for Christmas. That's awesome. It feels great. But when you do something for another person that you know is in need, like that feels 10 times better for some reason. And so I take adversity and opposition and I interconnect it the same way. When we go through things, it hurts or we figure out a way to get through it. But when we share something and we identify with another person, to let them know that, because oftentimes when people go through stuff, you feel alone, you feel isolated, and you feel like, man, like, is something wrong with me? And I think what happens when we go through and we create a level of empathy, we show them that, nah, man, you're human. Like, we all go through things. Like, nobody is perfect. Like, I told a guy that had a brachial plexus injury, he's like, man, I see how you got through it. Like, it hasn't been that easy for me. I was like, no, bro, it took work. It took years. Like, this was painful. I went through every emotion that you're probably going through. And I had a lot of people that helped me with them. And so I feel like sometimes it's just the feelings that are attached and interconnected to the experiences that we have that creates the reason that we hold on to it for so long. Right? And I think the quicker we can get through and use what we go through, the quicker we can go out and we can make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
Because life changes so quick, right? And as people, we're often arrogant. I was one of them. we live our lives and we feel as if we're promised something, right? But when you think about it, it's like when we try to control things. But when you really think about the macro of life and the grand scheme of life, we really don't have any control, right? We can control what we possess.